If you've ever felt shamed for your desire yet sensed your body can be holy, this is for you. Many were taught desire must be tamed or hidden to be spiritual. That teaching shaped churches and self-blame across generations. Have you ever wondered why longing became a secret, not a sacrament? Stay with me as we unravel that story. Official Christianity eventually elevated celibate male authority. Councils and leaders prized public order and male clerical control. Gnostic groups offered an alternative. They valued inner knowing partnership and women's spiritual authority. What would a faith look like where eros and wisdom partnered instead of being opposed? How might that possibility change the way you practice devotion today? In 1945, near Nag Hammadi, a farmer named Muhammad al-Saman found 13 leather Coptic codices hidden in a jar. Among them is the Gospel of Philip, a 4th century Coptic copy of an earlier Greek work. One line disturbs Orthodox narratives: Mary Magdalene is his companion. How could such a line survive the censors, translators, and hostile centuries that followed? Imagine a modern seeker at a kitchen table, candle flickering, Bible and coffee nearby. She has felt split, holy in church, embodied everywhere else. Reading Mary Magdalene is his companion changes how she breathes. Intimacy and wisdom now seem possible together. If that once circulated in Christian context, what does it now mean for your private yearning and your prayers? Power did not simply ignore these voices. Athanasius of Alexandria, Irenaeus, and Roman bishops systematically erased and burned heterodox writings. Councils and bishops hunted manuscripts and silenced teachers who elevated women or erotic symbolism. Over centuries, the archive narrowed to a strict orthodoxy favoring celibate male authority. But here's the paradox. Eros isn't mere lust. It's the life force in touch and breath. Gnostic writers named the bridal chamber an inner union, not a secret party. Reclaim embodied prayer and let your body teach you. This wasn't erased by accident, it was erased because it empowers you. To see what changed, let's look at the official story Rome told about sex and Mary Magdalene, and the gap it left for Magways.
Do, in T, as,
and C. Erase. By accident, it was erased because it empowers you. To see what changed, let's look at the official story Rome told about sex and Mary Magdalene, and the gap it left. If you've ever been told that holiness means avoiding desire, you're not imagining it. The official story recast desire as dangerous and women as temptation. Official teaching fixed authority outside the soul. Bishops' creeds and councils defined doctrine and moral limits. They pictured sex as risky unless for procreation and promoted virginity and celibacy as holy ideals. Gnostic currents move differently. The Gospel of Mary presents inner revelation and spiritual authority rooted in personal insight. What if authority lives inside, not only in bishops? In 591 CE in Rome, Pope Gregory the Great gave a sermon that reshaped Magdalene's image. He explicitly merged Mary of Bethany, Luke's unnamed sinful woman noun, and Mary Magdalene into one figure. Gregory wrote of she whom Luke calls the sinful woman. That single move turned a leader at the tomb into a repentant harlot. What did that change erase? Picture a young nun in 12th century France listening as Gregory's sermon is read aloud. The abbess repeats Magdalene equals repentant harlot. She is taught to distrust her body and suspect desire. Her longing for a felt divine presence is labeled dangerous and private. Her voice dims under a label she never chose. Does that silenced yearning look familiar in your life? Gregory's homily did not sit idle. Bishops and medieval clergy across the Latin West repeated his claim in sermons, art and penance manuals. Gregory's sermon erased Magdalene's leadership for over a millennium and redirected attention from her authority at the empty tomb. Churches taught her as a moral warning. But here's the paradox. When a teaching produces shame and silences women, challenge the label. Bishops and councils enforced external authority, but inner knowing can be tested by compassion and courage. Ask yourself which teachings dim your voice and body. You can reclaim sacred eros and leadership by examining history and feeling truth in your life. Now let's hear a different voice. A single text preserving an older memory of Magdalene and sacred eros. If you've ever felt that your body could be a doorway to God, this line will feel like home. It sees your body as presence, not a detour. Most churches toots Mary Magdalene as a repentant backdrop to male apostles. That framing shapes how you see women desire and authority today. Have you ever wondered why her role was narrowed so sharply? Stay curious. The official story says truth is guarded by office and line of succession. Bishops insisted on fixed roles and male authority. Gnostic groups told a different tale. Truth shows itself in transformation. Companion meant partner, sharer, initiated, equal. Magdalene appears as co-teacher, not a footnote. Imagine two students kneeling before a teacher, one woman, one man. They're asked to refine desire into presence and honesty. Their bodies become part of learning, not a test to fail. Touch and consent train attention, not sin. For them, intimacy was sacrament and pedagogy. Could this practice help you turn embodied longing into honest spiritual practice now? By about 180 CE, Irenaeus of Lyons cataloged many groups as heretics. Bishops used his accounts to warn congregations and set boundaries. Over decades, councils and bishops erased rival memories and dangerous claims from circulation. Libraries and sermons reinforced a single official memory. The voices of women teachers were marginalized and forgotten. But here's the paradox. Take this as practice. Let companion mean shared initiation and authority in your relationships. Read Bridal Chamber as inner reconciliation of mind and heart. Gnosis measures truth by transformation, more love, clearer sight, less fear. Practice Eros as attention, consent, and kindness. Let embodiment become prayer. If one text preserves a different memory, why did so few of these voices survive? Let's name the clash and how power responded. If you've ever felt silenced by gatekeepers, the pattern is old. When teachings invite inner authority, especially embodied paths, those in charge often react. Institutions then insist that holiness needs sanctioned interpreters and rituals. That shapes who can speak and who must obey. Have you ever wondered why inner authority scares hierarchies so much? Stay curious, there's more to uncover. The official story centralized sacraments, bishops, and councils as the sole arbiters of truth. Gnosis proposed direct experience practices that work in the body and heart. Orthodoxy preferred interpretation from above. Gnostic paths trusted inner sight and results. That difference isn't abstract. It decides who leads, who heals, and who gets labeled heretical. Which approach will you let guide your life now? One surviving witness is the Gospel of Philip, copied in Coptic in 4th century Egypt. It states, "The Lord did everything in a mystery." That line frames baptism, chrism, Eucharist, reduction, pain in their bridal chamber as lived mysteries. The codex was buried near Nag Hammadi, likely to protect it from burning. Its survival proves alternative sacramental teachings existed beside emerging orthodoxy. What did that alternative mean for power? Picture a Coptic monk around 370 CE wrapping codices in leather at dusk. He carries them to Jebel al-Taf, clasps cliffs, and hides jars in wind-blown caves. Those opposing voices were not vague. Irenaeus of Lyons erased rival groups in the 80s. Emperor Constantine ordered heretical writings burned after 325. Bishop Athanasius in Alexandria narrowed the canon and fueled book burnings in 367. Pope Gregory the Great erased Magdalene's authority in 591. Pope Innocent III hunted dissenters during the Albigensian Crusade, 1209 to 1229. Councils and bishops enforced conformity. But here is the paradox. This conflict was about control of sacraments, bodies, and interpretation. Orthodoxy centralized authority through councils and bishops. Gnosis insisted on direct inner knowing, not fully policed. The bridal chamber threatened celibate male mediators. Eros affirming practice decentralized power. How will you test teachings? By fear or by their fruits in your body and life? With the players and actions named, let's decode the symbols. Make them tools you can use, not secrets you must fear. If religious language ever felt vague, let me make it usable for you. Orthodox leaders turned living symbols into fixed rules and gatekeeping that shut down inquiry. That left seekers guessing, deferring, or staying silent about practice. Learning symbol meaning gives you practical tools for honest ritual and choice. This matters because ritual power often sits with those who name it. Curious to look closer? Official history stresses creeds and correct formulas, not personal experience or inner mapping. Bishops insisted doctrine over lived practice, making symbols static. Gnostics treated symbols as doorways to personal insight and change. In their view, demons map to shame, compulsion, and numbness, states to be noticed and healed. This stance makes ritual diagnostic not punitive. Want to see how this looks in a text? The Gospel of Philip says, "Truth did not come into the world naked." That line appears in Nag Hammadi Codex II, a Coptic manuscript rooted in Egyptian local practice. The text teaches that truth arrives clothed in symbols and images so seekers can approach it. Yet that very clothing allowed leaders to fix interpretation and close doors. What was gained and what might have been lost? A modern couple reads the line together, before dinner kitchen light, warm hands close but tense. They learn to notice friction not as failure but as material for repair and initiation. They name shame, breathe together, and practice truthful speech across the table. The ancient symbolism becomes a living practice in their home. Picture using that skill in your relation. Turn symbols into daily practices that build presence and honest touch. Treat demons as inner feelings, shame, compulsion, numbness, and notice them kindly. Reframe the bridal chamber as inner union, consent, honesty, shared attention. Now let's turn this into concrete steps you can try this week safely and clearly with or without a partner. If you've ever wanted a simple way to practice sacred eros without weirdness, here's a clear start. No costumes, no secrecy, just attention, consent, and care. For centuries, the Church reframed desire into guilt and control, turning tenderness into doctrine. That history shaped what we think of love today. What would change if devotion lived in your body? The official story says a single canon sorted truth and closed debate, and bishops and early councils chose which books belonged. Gnostic groups kept other paths, often honoring feminine wisdom and embodied practice. Those texts were alive for many communities. Have you ever wondered why feminine language for God largely vanished by 200 AD? Consider one line from the Gospel of Philip, Nag Hammadi Codex II, a 4th century Coptic text found in 1945. It states plainly, Mary Magdalene is his companion. That line authorizes partnership as a spiritual path rather than scandal. Yet by 591, Pope Gregory I promoted a sermon framing her only as a penitent. How did respect become erasure? Tonight you turn off your phone, place a hand on your heart and breathe. You choose one conversation where you speak honestly and listen fully. Your body becomes part of prayer, not proof of guilt. Mary's recognition as companion shows embodied devotion mattered then in life and teaching. Could this small practice reconnect your feeling and faith? For centuries, Roman bishops erased and burned alternative teachings, branding them heretical and hunting their followers. Church fathers like Irenaeus and later councils condemned Gnostic writings while monastic leaders enforced ascetic norms. People paid with exile, silence, or even execution for practicing embodied devotion. Manuscripts were hidden until discoveries centuries later. But here is the paradox. Try tonight, sit upright 5 minutes. Breathe, hand on heart and belly. Name fear and desire. Aloud, then thank your body. With partner, agree, consent, share a blessing and a boundary, hold eye contact for a minute. In a study circle, read one saying aloud and report results. If this helped, subscribe for grounded teachings and share one insight in the comments. Your voice helps others trust their